How's it going, my fellow Mandalorians? Welcome to my episode 7, the penultimate episode, breakdown and review of The Mandalorian Season 2, Chapter 15, The Believer. Now, this episode, as much as I enjoyed it, it had a couple of things I have some kind of issues with. Now, I know that is blasphemous in the realm of The Mandalorian because it's the most perfect show in the world, is it not? But even those shows, you know, whether you like it or not, do have some issues sometimes. So I'm going to get into those as of when they pop up in it. But this episode, I still thoroughly enjoyed it, especially that ending scene. By the way, let's just dive into it today. But before I do, oh yeah, some of you may be asking what are my thoughts on all of that new Star Wars information we got. I'm going to be trying my best to get a video out on that after this maybe. Latest tomorrow. There's a lot of things I need to talk about because my mind is blown, as you can imagine, but this isn't the video for that. At the very beginning of this episode, we had that kind of like Empire ship cleanup yard kind of thing. I don't know if it was like a leftover of a battle or just where a load of like, you know, remnants of Imperial destroyed ships like TIE fighters, AT-ATs, you name it, are just kind of scraps there. And the New Republic are, you know, recycling the stuff, salvaging, you name it. And that's what the inmates are doing. And as we know, one of them is Boba's Mayfield. It was cool seeing the New Republic droids again and just getting a little bit of a snippet of the New Republic era. And there's going to be a lot more of that with some of these new Star Wars live action things that we've got going on, announced last night at the Disney Investor thing. We had Marshal Cara Dune take Mayfield into her custody, and she had to bend a lot of rules to do so. But let's talk about when Boba Fett was walking out of Slave One. That armor! Oh my god, that was so clean. I wasn't actually expecting that. I was thinking last episode, is he gonna kind of try and do another paint job? Like, what's he gonna do here? And they did. Like, he kind of repainted it. It looks so good. He's deciding to keep the robes, so he's got a little bit of a new look there. But wow, I love just seeing, you know, a prime-looking Boba Fett again. By the way, you guys know the deal. Mando asks, you know the kind of Imperial protocols and codes, don't you? So, right, come with me, we're going. And to locate the coordinates of Moff Gideon's cruiser, that is only located on an internal Imperial terminal, and that is on Morak, a secret Imperial mining hub. So the plan is to get in there, get the coordinates, get out. But of course, as we know, it's kind of never that simple, and I think most of us at this point kind of felt out this episode to be one of those typical Mando episodes in between, where it's a little bit of an action adventure, but it still low-key pertains to the plot, of course. Now, one thing I really liked about this episode is that they didn't give Mando his literal plot armor. As much as I love Beskar, it does sometimes introduce issues into the show where Mando, like, for example, here's an issue. Mando always getting shot by the stormtroopers with his Beskar armor on, like last episode where Fennec Shand was there and she wasn't getting shot. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's always the invincible shield kind of thing, and it's very rarely, if not probably never, gonna get in between the cracks of his armor where he could get shot. So in this episode, they actually gave us the opportunity to have Mando not in Beskar, but in a trooper uniform, who were escorting that very, very explosive material. So I was looking forward to see what that would introduce in the episode throughout, just because it adds a lot more stakes with Mando being potentially a bit more in danger. Mando insisted going in with Mayfield himself because if you think about it, everyone else, as they said, they're kind of wanted. But, you know, I have to admit, things like this do pop up every now and again. Like, do they really expect us to believe when I think 3 of them landed on the cargo transport, like douche, that the troopers piloting that cargo, the car thing, that they didn't hear that? I know a lot of people let stuff like that go a lot of the time, me included. It just depends how much of that is in the episode, because otherwise it just gets way too convenient all the time. I mean, just imagine driving that yourself and you hear 3 bodies drop on the roof of your car, and you're just like there happily driving along as they come up and surprise you. Do you know what I mean? One thing you may have heard me talk about before as well is that I really kind of enjoy the perspective of the universe from characters outside what we're used to, like the main characters all the time. For example, in season 1, where we heard when Mando went to deliver the child for the bounty of Beskar, and how he said like people like the Empire because they like order. That was revisited and touched upon quite a few times in this episode, not only from the Imperials, but Bill Burr's Mayfield in this moment was talking about the Mandalorians and all those people who died in wars fought by Mandalorians not having really any choice. Like Empire, New Republic, it's all the same to these people, like the natives on the planet. We're just invaders in their land. So how is anyone really different from the Empire? I mean, there is still a difference, because there's one way of governing a system and a galaxy, the Empire's way, or the First Order's way, you name it. And then there's the New Republic way, like, which is a lot more nicer. So there is a difference, but yeah, I kind of get where they're going with that, and I do like hearing opinions like that from random characters like Mayfield. Anyway, though, of course, this is a Mandalorian episode, so it wasn't going to go smoothly transporting the Rhydonium, I think it was called, Rhydonium, because all the other Rhydonium transports were getting blown up by pirates. So this is where Mando himself had to get up on top and, you know, basically get ready to fight them without any plot armor. And I felt like the way they tackled this was fairly straightforward because they couldn't necessarily risk shooting him all the time because they could have blown up the ship that some of them were on themselves. So the plan was for them to get a thermal detonator, put it on a Rhydonium kind of capsule place thing, and then blow it up just like all the other ones were blowing up. As always, I enjoyed this action. It was quite entertaining, and it was good actually seeing Mando take some hits, like his armor shattering on his shoulder or something like that. That's not gonna hurt, if you know what I mean. The thing is, the pirates just kept on coming, like, and we're talking with buckets and buckets of thermal detonators. It was almost like they were deliberately memeing at that point. It was like all of these thermal detonators just activating through all of these different pirates just arriving. But is it just me though? I know it's Bill Burr, obviously, but I felt like there was almost too many jokes being tried to be implemented throughout the episode and in these moments. Some of them I appreciate it, but I felt like a lot of them just didn't land. Maybe you could call me like I have no sense of humor. I like to think that I do, but I don't know. I felt like it was almost too MCU with the humor. I know that might not make sense to some people, but like, you know how the common belief is like, yes, the MCU is funny, but sometimes they just rely on that comedy too much. It felt like Bill Burr's lines, they just kept throwing that in the script, and I just was like, okay, it's neither here nor there for half of the jokes they attempted to do, but maybe you feel differently about that. But speaking about different people's perspective, Empire, New Republic, or if you're just in the middle, like Mando doing whatever, you don't care about who you're governed by kind of thing, it was very interesting seeing, like, kind of being on Team Empire, even though we were kind of undercover in this episode. When the TIE Fighters came in, and then the Stormtroopers came in, that was very... I don't know, I just really liked that. And not only that, when they got on the base, and then it's like they gave a lot more flavor to all of these characters. I think you had some kind of miners or whatever there, but you had a lot of Stormtroopers who were just a lot more, I don't know, expressive with their actions rather than just being Stormtroopers. Like, hey, who goes there? But also, yet again, not to sound nitpicky, but like, it is kind of interesting. But to be honest, this wouldn't be Star Wars without this happening. How Stormtroopers had accurate shooting when they were firing upon the pirates as they were getting in, but then they just all of a sudden get inaccurate when it comes to the main characters in the episode. But hey, that's been a thing since the very beginning. And whilst that does, you know, introduce some inconsistencies, I don't really care about it all that much, but just thought I'd mention it because I want to know what you guys think about things like that. Now, this is when Mayfield tries to access the Imperial terminal, and this is where a very cool moment happens, and it's something, don't get me wrong, that I've wanted nothing more than to happen for Pedro Pascal, but it does introduce issues if they don't go ahead in future episodes and next season and continue to explore this, and you'll get what I mean in a second. So, Valen Hess is who Mayfield used to serve under as a field operative, but Mando insisted on not losing the kid forever, obviously, so he takes the stick himself, goes up to the terminal, obviously doesn't take his helmet off because it requires a facial scan, because he doesn't want to reveal his face, but then he does. Now, let's get one thing straight. He believes in the Children of the Watch creed, where you can't show a single being their face because automatically by creed, you are no longer a part of you're no longer a child of the Watch. It's just facts. Like, if anyone sees your face, that's it. That's it. You're not in it. And I know you could easily say, and I'm fully aware of this, that the motivation was he would do anything for baby Grogu. And I'm totally on board with how much this shows how important baby Grogu is to him for him to completely throw his creed to the floor. And as I said, look, I want nothing more than for the Mandalorian show to show more Pedro Pascal, but it's just after the talking bit with the Imperial officer, and I'll get into that in just a second, but I want to skip forward to when Bill Burr said, "You did what you had to do, I never saw your face." And it just kind of felt like that was their fixed line of like, okay, like, we'll throw out that you just did that and completely threw your creed on the floor in this episode, and like, you know, it doesn't matter because I didn't see your face. I'm really hoping that is not just the resolution to why he showed his face. I want them to expand upon this moment and offer that this is Mando being inspired from that maybe not inspired is the right word, but obviously when he saw Bo-Katan, he learned about there's other Mandalorian tribes. Not gonna lie though, he should have already known that through being raised and being taught about and being educated in Mandalorian culture. But going back to that, he learned officially in the show that you can be a Mandalorian and take your helmet off. Bottom line, what I'm trying to say here is that this will only turn into an issue for me, because it technically isn't now, if he continues in the show, and I know we've only got one more episode left, so this does count for episode 1, 2, and 3 of next season. If he continues to operate in the show as if it's insanely important to keep his helmet on. Because if they do that, and if he's like, no, it's part of my creed, it's part of my religion, I can't do it, it's too late, mate. You've already done it. Whether it's for baby Grogu or not, it's too late. By rights, you're out of your creed and religion. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I'm not nitpicking here. This is just making sure they're keeping their writing consistent. So that's why I hope they introduce the story of Mando ever since he got shook, that he's in like an extremist zealot version of the original way of the Mandalorians, that he's thinking, wait, I could still be a Mandalorian and take my helmet off. Do that, and say that in the future episodes. Don't maintain that you have to wear a helmet when you've completely already contradicted your own creed. Also, one more thing as well, this does actually introduce an interesting thing in the plot, and I really hope that they don't not do this kind of thing, because that would be silly as well, is that through Pedro Pascal's Din Djarin getting his face scanned into those Imperial records, because you can bet your ass that realistically they would backtrace how and where the Mandalorian got the coordinates for Moff Gideon's cruiser, that his face is now scanned into Imperial records. Sure, you could come back to me and say in the comments, but the base got destroyed, so maybe they don't have to worry about his face now being in the Imperial record system, but you would have thought they have like especially with technology in Star Wars, that they have like a cloud system, so whether that base got destroyed or not, like Din Djarin's face is for the first time, just like Cara Dune, Fennec Shand were worried about going down and being spotted, he's now like in the exact same position as them. Either way though, I really enjoyed that Imperial officer. Excuse me for not knowing who that is, because I feel like it is somebody who is almost like guesting in the show, but he was like absolute personification of Imperial officer. I mean, just when he was talking about Burning Con, where obviously Mayfield did serve under this guy, and Valen Hess had to make a lot of, as he says, unpleasant decisions, where he essentially just sacrificed around 5,000 to 10,000 of his own troops in the Empire, and that was a part of Mayfield's whole platoon or whatever, or division. Obviously somehow he got out of it, but you just see this guy saying, oh, doesn't really matter, but like he is angered by it. Initially I thought when he shot him it was a bit stupid, but I can easily just kind of let that one go. Imagine the kind of triggering PTSD he's got from that, and the impulsive recklessness that would give you to just do that to that sleazebag. Like, I get it, and it's an in-and-out mission, so the fact that they went out through those very windows right there, I thought that was completely fair enough of a thing to do. Because I was thinking, wait, what are you doing? Why would you make that decision even if it angered you? Because you're in a place with thousands, well, not thousands, but arguably 100 Imperial troopers. That's very risky, but yeah, fair enough. They went out the back window. That's cool. And you have literally Boba Fett, air support, you have snipers. That's all fair enough. But also, as much as I poked into the whole maskless scene for Din Djarin, I did really appreciate the motivation. I just want to make that clear for the child. I just think even if that's a really cool motivation, you just need to be careful with the writing of the show and making sure you're maintaining that. But also, secondly, I really like Pedro Pascal's performance, because he hasn't really, so to speak, looked human beings in the eye in a long time, and that's why he looked kind of so awkward. Obviously he was terrified of like screwing the mission up, but like he hasn't socialized, he hasn't got the social skills of seeing people without his helmet off, and I felt like he portrayed that really well. But either way, the whole escape was awesome. Just the sniping, Boba just like, I'm on it, like getting them, that was fantastic. Bill Burr decides to blow up the whole facility to stick it to the Empire. Despite serving with them, you can completely understand the motivation. But also, whoa, that bomb that Boba Fett dropped, I'm pretty sure, wasn't that like the exact same bomb that Jango Fett dropped when Obi-Wan Kenobi was in pursuit? Like that kind of zoom kind of thing. Was that Attack of the Clones? Remind me if I'm wrong. But yeah, that was a nice callback. By the way, Mayfield's off the hook now. That's cool. You could be sure we'll be seeing him again someday. That's kind of a given. Some point in season 3, I'm sure. And that cut to Moff Gideon at the end, I loved it. That was really good. That was a really good scene, using his own mother-freaking words against him. Moff Gideon, you have something I want. You may think you have some idea of what you're in possession of, but you do not. Soon he will be back with me. He means more to me than you ever know. That was like so badass, and I'm not trying to sound cringy here, but so sweet and just so wholesome. Like, it was so like because it just shows that sincere relationship that Din has, and yes, why he took his helmet off and just everything, and he was sticking it to the man, and you can see how triggered Moff Gideon was. And it was just badass, because just in case you have forgot, those were the exact lines that Moff Gideon said to Mando and Cara and Greef when they were trapped in with, where there was all of those stormtroopers outside, death troopers, you name it. So yeah, it really set up a good finale. I thought this penultimate episode would be a bit more explosive, considering there's only one more episode left, but either way, like, I was still satisfied for the most part, and that was a really good way to leave it off. Like, this means war for the next episode, and he knows that the Mandalorian is coming for him. But also, to be fair, through doing that, he's just alerted to Moff Gideon that he's coming for him, and they won't have the element of surprise. But either way, like, cool flex, I suppose. Decent episode. I feel like it flew by, even though it was longer than the last episode, but like 8-ish minutes. It just flew by. I enjoyed it, but also, whilst I think about it, I did a whole predictions video that I uploaded yesterday for the finale next week. So I uploaded a bit early to get a bit of time into it, so I'd really appreciate it if you guys check that out, offered your own insight on my predictions and theories for what could happen in the finale. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I have more Star Wars videos to make, so expect some coverage on all of that information we got over the weekend, my reactions to it, I suppose. But if you like this video, please go ahead and like it. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not subscribed to the channel and you happen to be watching these videos every week. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and may the Force be with you always.